Are you concerned about Hollywood's hiring practices, diversity in Hollywood, diversity in film, diversity in television? Do you see the topic of diversity and inclusion as a threat or to use as a weapon? Do you see the struggle for racial and gender parity in America? The truth is, while Hollywood, especially in the television end, has made more strides to be inclusive of those who are of different ethnic backgrounds and sexual preferences, and be more inclusive of women in the casting and greenlighting of productions, there's still a ways to go. I'm going to give you a challenge to make your voice matter. As someone who's disabled and labeled a minority, I have seen firsthand in the Hollywood trenches how the arguments made by some are based on emotion instead of figures, and how those same figures don't cover the whole spectrum of productions and job titles. And for young aspiring content creators and filmmakers joining the ranks of the new Hollywood generation, this applies to you. All that coming up. Welcome to Hollywood Unapologetic. My name is Orlando Delbert. I wanted to speak a little bit about filmmaking essentials, Hollywood's hiring practices, the struggle for racial and gender parity in America, to the diversity in Hollywood, diversity in film, diversity in television, and what are you doing about it, and how it applies to the new Hollywood generation. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. I should mention before we get into it, I first wrote about some of what we're about to touch upon, success in filmmaking in life and how it applies as part of the new Hollywood generation when I was writing Pollyanna's Tear-Soaked Battlefields of Hollywood, Survival Guide Against the Cynicism and the Hypocritical. We want to know your questions, comments, and suggestions you may have. Please write them below, leave a thumbs up if you like what you see. Make sure you click on the subscribe button. Click that bell so you don't miss anything. Be sure to check out the videos in the playlist. New to film production? Start here. Be sure to watch all of the way through. We're going to speak about a lot of things as part of being prepared. Remember, preparation is the key to you and your project's success. You ready? I first wrote about the lack of diversity in Hollywood's hiring practices about 10 years ago in my book. My first video in the series was on this topic, which was around the time the Academy Awards received a lot of attention for the choices in the nominations, which in turn saw a surge in the Oscars Not So White hashtag hitting social media. When I decided to revisit the subject of diversity in the entertainment industry, in particular in the film and television side, I went on YouTube to take a look at what came up in the search tool. And to my surprise, 2 videos popped out. Diversity is a weapon against white people, which 263,000 views, and 7 shows that have too many people of color with 855,000 views. Based on the titles alone, it was clear that the producers' intentions were about having less of a constructive conversation about hiring practices, which has been the baseline for much of the ongoing conversation and of inclusion, than it was about clickbait or about propagating hate. It's also clear that these 2 videos and others like them add to the challenge for racial and gender parity in America. And unfortunately, especially during these disquiet and disruptive political times in the United States, some take advantage of what should be a forward-thinking topic to bring more of the populace together, use it as a weapon to incite hatred, and push everyone further apart. The point of the conversation on diversity in the film and television industry has always been about the inclusion of those who are of different ethnic backgrounds, different sexes and sexual preferences, different religious beliefs, and of those with disabilities, and everything else that too often has a negative label slapped on it by closed-mindedness than it has been about any attack on white people. Sure, there will be some who may put any type of spin on it based on their personal experiences, agendas, and in some cases narrow-mindedness. Some just may be racial pricks or just internet trolls looking to stir shit up simply because they can hide behind the internet's anonymous nature. The reality is simple. Hollywood has and will always be about making the most money the quickest, period. And to do that, they resort to the formulas that have worked for them in the past, proven over and over again for decades. When so many build their opinions based on emotions alone, they lose track or may just not be aware of the hundreds of millions of dollars that are at potential risk when producing any major motion picture, as well as the money to be made for decades to come. The entertainment industry is an industry. Today, however, things have changed largely in television. That has a lot to do with the way budgets are put together, with an eye on television affiliate fees, which by the way is a primary revenue stream for television, multi-billion-dollar-a-year revenue maker for the networks, and the fact that a broader range of creative talents have stepped up to produce their own content or are fighting for racial and gender parity in America. They have helped open more doors than ever before. While all too many are quick to voice their opinions online from an emotional viewpoint or just downright disdain towards a certain director or a group of actors in the public eye, but unless you have sat in the meetings where the conversations are largely about tens and hundreds of millions of dollars at a time in play and have an in-depth working knowledge of the Hollywood backstory and have seen firsthand the business practices of the studios and networks, it's difficult to make a positive argument to build upon to push an industry forward. I say this not to discount anyone's views or opinions in any way. I'm saying this because the only way to contribute constructively and to move any ideal forward is to have accurate data and building a case based on that data. Yes, there is bias in regards to someone's race, sex, age, sexual preference, and if they are disabled in many corners of the entertainment industry. But the one thing that has been consistent in Hollywood's love affair with the color green. The handful of bigots in this industry are in no way a reflection of everyone in the business of show, and to think that is quite small-mindedness and limiting to your own potential. And that is the point. Far too many people are busy pointing fingers and inciting hatred towards others instead of offering a positive solution, or at least showing a willingness of a dialogue to move any issue forward. Does my speaking about Hollywood's hiring practices, diversity in Hollywood, especially in television, and how some use this topic as weaponize his or her agendas against the struggle for racial and gender parity in America make sense? If it does, write hashtag New Hollywood Generation in the comments below. That's hashtag New Hollywood Generation. Information from the Ralph J. Bunche Center for African Studies at UCLA and other groups have created reports based on comparisons between top theatrical motion picture releases, television programming, and other distribution platforms of how they relate to the makeup of our country's populace. These are great and powerful tools, but all too often what hasn't received enough focus is how the networks and studios make their business decisions and what they are based upon. Not to mention that many of the other productions that don't fall under the scrutiny of these groups because they are not the top box office grossers. Plus, by decades of working in and around the offices and post-production end of the industry, I can tell you most of the numbers spoken about don't reflect the majority involved being women of different ethnicities. Even with the attack towards the Motion Picture Academy in recent years, many did not take the time to learn the Academy Awards are representation of motion pictures only and not of the motion picture business. They are two very different subjects, nor do they take into account it takes years for any productions to get made. This is important to point out because the thing that many aren't addressing is the simple fact that Hollywood does and will always follow the money. Put it simply, the expenses involved in many Hollywood motion pictures today are so high that business machines simply want to minimize their financial risk. This is why you see so many of the same types of projects, remakes, sequels, prequels, reimaginings, and even the fracturing of existing brands in the pursuit of the commodification of Hollywood. This is also why you see a lot of the same talent featured on screen, even to play characters of ethnicities they don't fit. These casting decisions occur because the safe bet for the studios and networks' financial return is on someone who has made money for them consistently, who is popular now and more bankable globally for their target demographics. These same decisions are based in part with pre-existing brand celebrities already tied to. This is not about white privilege or anything else other than about making money. So how do the content creators get past the decision-making process by the motion picture studios and television network? Like I've mentioned earlier, some creators have decided to produce their own content to have their voices heard and to offer opportunities for those of like minds to fight for racial and gender parity in America. Plus, with each production made, it offers yet another opportunity to have a positive dialogue. And this is all part of you and I having to pay our dues. Yep, you and I have to pay our dues over and over again. This is something a lot of people don't want to acknowledge nor even accept. This is something seen more and more with young people wanting the world but not continuously putting the work in or willing to be flexible to opportunities as they arrive. And this mindset makes it easier for others to have a negative influence on you and feed into the high amount of negativity we see today in this world. Thanks to social media, many now have a voice and like to stir shit up simply because they can. These individuals are a far cry from offering any kind of productive contributions to move any issue forward. They just want to entice hatred because it's much easier to do than it is to work for something that for everyone's common good. Anyone who may be different in their eyes is all too often seen as a threat to their way of life. And in saying this, I have a challenge for you. My challenge to you is if you're concerned about the hiring practices, opportunities, and the struggle for racial and gender parity in America, what are you going to do about it? If you are concerned about the hiring practices of the Hollywood studios and networks and how inclusive they are to those of different ethnic backgrounds, different sexes and sexual preferences, different religious beliefs, and those with disabilities, what are you going to do about it? You know the television networks and motion picture studios will follow the money. How will you tap into that? All of the points made by so many of these issues, regardless of the validity, miss the simple point of we all need to create the projects we want, hire the people we want, and base it on the individual's talents and willingness to be inclusive of one another. This should not be based on just someone's ethnic background, sex, age, sexual preference, the shoe they're wearing today, or the car they drive. Because for us to get beyond this, we have to work as one. It truly is that simple. Our roles as content creators come with a responsibility because many identify with Hollywood as being the face of America. Really give that some thought. Many cultures around the world identify with the products offered by the Hollywood machine as a strong representation of whom we are and what we're about. So doesn't it make sense to create the projects and the roles of true substance that are a positive voice, not just because any group of people may be considered marginalized by some? To achieve true diversity, we have to encourage one another to be inclusive of one another. And I say inclusive, not tolerant. They have very different meanings. And being inclusive is also having a willingness to have a dialogue that is far greater than just hiring a certain director or set of actors. It also has to do with hiring those behind the camera, production assistants, the grips, and electrical men and women, the writers, everyone. Every member of the new Hollywood generation, yes, this means you too, is of value because of his or her willingness to be part of this inclusive journey. You and I are of value and are part of a larger culture each and every one of us represents. One more thing, as part of the new Hollywood generation, others just like you are asking the same questions of themselves. You are not alone. We are all in it together. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe and click on the bell to know when we have more for you, and more episodes are coming. Please share with someone you know who may find what we spoke about today beneficial. Like if you like what you see, dislike if you don't, and let us hear from you. Are you going to use what we discussed today? Yes or no? Let us know in the comments below. Please consider what I offered you today, and consider what your role is as a new generation of content creators, and feel free to take advantage of other members in the new Hollywood generation community. We are all here to grow together and to help one another. We have a strong group on Twitter. Come join the new Hollywood generation and meet some fellow filmmakers and content creators. As members of the new Hollywood generation, take the time to assess what your short-term and long-term goals are. Make your plan, take a breath, go for it. You can do it once you believe you can. Are you ready for the challenge? If you're looking for filmmaking for beginners, Filmmaking 101, and for some filmmaking tips on how to want to be a filmmaker, make sure to click on the subscribe button. Click that bell so you don't miss anything. Looking for how to filmmaking essentials? Be sure to check out the videos in the playlist. New to film production, start here. Think of this channel as a film crash course or filmmaking crash course and an introduction to filmmaking entrepreneurship to build the skills needed well beyond just how to succeed Hollywood and beyond whatever discussion other how-to film school, how-to indie filmmaking, in general, how to film industry channels don't talk about. The whys you truly need to know to help you grow as a thought leader in life, the entertainment industry, and how it applies as part of the new Hollywood generation is in this video series and in the Pollyanna's Tear-Soaked Battlefields of Hollywood, a survival guide against the cynicism and the hypocritical series of books. Links below. Remember, preparation is the key to you and your project's success. Ready?